right, welcome to the Rock Your Dream Body and Dream Life interview series. Today, I am talking with Lana Shlafer. Oh my gosh, it's so
You
funny.
got it. It's a very complicated name.
I was thinking about it earlier. I was like, I know that I know her last name, but I just want to repeat it. And then here I go saying.
I had a friend who's an intuitive tell me, just drop your last name. She's like, you're going to be like Oprah anyway. You won't need a last name. But I'm like, you know what? I could probably drop my last name and nobody will miss it.
That's why you go with Lana TV, right?
Yeah.
So Lana is a speaker, life coach, yogini, and creator of the Get Full of Yourself online membership program. Through her courses, guided meditations, and mastermind groups, Lana has helped hundreds of clients who are ready to live an extraordinary life go from I have a vision to I have arrived with ease, clarity, and love. And Lana happily resides in Southern California. We're almost neighbors, not quite, but just about an hour away. And with her Buddha twins and her amazing husband. So welcome, Lana. It's such a pleasure to be doing this interview with you today.
Thank you. And my baby bump now. I'll have to update my bio soon to say that I'm a mom of 3, which is crazy.
Yeah, arriving late June.
Yep, arriving late June. I'll show you.
Beautiful.
Real.
Yeah. So I feel like today's conversation, I really want to focus on the idea of ease because that's your specialty. And so while, the whole premise of this interview series is about breaking free from yo-yo dieting and self-sabotage so you can feel amazing in your skin, I think, there's all of these different things out there. There's like lists of these foods to eat and these exercises to do, but people just don't know how to make that their lifestyle. And I think it really goes back to our mindset and, a lot of the other stuff that's going on in the background. And so today I'd love to kind of start out by you sharing your story first and foremost of how you began rocking your dream body and your dream life by your definition.
Yeah, so there's a lot to say on that. I grew up in Russia until I was 12, and I did ballroom dancing starting when I was 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. And one of my first memories, like early childhood, was actually even before that. I did gymnastics when I was like 5 or 6, was one of the gymnastics teachers telling my mom to put me on a diet. Like, 6-year-old, eat cabbage or whatever the hell they tell you in Russia. And when I was a dancer, I am a more athletic and more curvy, not the wiry, super thin ballroom kind of dance type. And so I remember the teachers telling my mom, like, okay, you got to watch what she eats and blah, 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 blah. And so, yeah, I grew up with some issues around that. My mom, bless her heart, did not love her body to the most that she could. And I have a very similar body. So that got passed down. And when it really started coming up was when I was in my late teens and early 20s, when I think I started becoming a woman and I kind of blossomed. I went from this like ugly duckling immigrant who didn't speak English well and wore glasses to like this beautiful young woman. I started getting a lot of attention, and I think I naturally kind of thinned out around when I was 17 or 18. And I didn't know what to do with that attention. And I developed like a really bad binge eating disorder. And then when I was in college and I was stressed and my parents got divorced, it really hit a point where I was about to pull out of college and go to a facility and check myself in because it was so hard for me to live a normal life. And my parents couldn't really understand it because they were like, well, just stop eating all the crap you're eating. It was like, they didn't understand the emotional connection that this was my way of trying to suppress my feelings and find some semblance of control in a life that felt very much not my own. And then I started working in investment banking, and that just got worse because I was working insane hours, not really having the time to work out compulsively like I did before to kind of like manage the eating. But also simultaneously, I was in college introduced to yoga, and I started understanding some of these principles that were like nonviolence, ahimsa. And my teacher would talk about nonviolence to your body. And I would lay there in the yoga class in Shavasana and cry because I was recognizing how violent I was to my body. violent to myself, so forget not eating meat or fish or whatever nonviolence is. Like, I was violating myself and I didn't know what to do. So I read a lot of books. I started leaning in the direction of intuitive eating. And that was a big change. I remember I was like in investment banking, sitting in my little cubicle and logging into this intuitive eating community to talk about how I really want to tune into my own guidance and stop doing these things that I should be doing, that I felt like I had to do in order to feel okay, basically. And so, I mean, that was, I don't know, over 10 years ago, more. So there's been a journey that I've gone through. And I feel like it was ultimately a journey of understanding that there isn't a right way. Like my tenets, my key principles nowadays are, there isn't a right way. Like if you eat this, or if you do this, or if you whatever, you're not guaranteed a result. And even for the people that it does work for, it doesn't mean it'll work for forever, because we are these breathing, living, growing, evolving beings. And then it doesn't have to be hard. That was a big one for me to overcome, coming from like a very stoic, like Russian background. Like, you got to struggle and suffer. I mean, the reason that I think I'm such a powerful teacher of ease nowadays is because I come from that. And I just so don't want to live that what I've seen in my family and generationally. Right. And so, okay, yeah, I don't have to struggle. There's an intuitive guidance in me. And then it became a process of discovering, well, what is that? What is that for me? What is this nonviolent self-love, listening to my intuition look like for me? And it was a journey of, trying different things and exploring and listening to myself, and sometimes getting out of whack in that and bringing myself back in balance. But ultimately where I am now, and I did this live Facebook video that you saw and invited me to be on the summit, because I've been kind of holding back. It almost feels like bragging, but I called my membership Get Full of Yourself membership, because I believe that we need to be more full of ourselves. And that involves praising ourselves and really expressing our truth. And my truth nowadays is that my body really effortlessly maintains itself. And I almost can't believe that I'm saying that, given everything that I just told you, but it's true. Like, I don't believe that I have these issues with food anymore. Anytime that I feel any kind of triggers around food, I see it as a huge insight into myself. It's usually a gateway into something I am not noticing in my life. So I bless it. And in terms of like physical health and vitality and radiance, having given birth to twins 5 years ago, been through the whole journey of pregnancy and post-pregnancy, and now again. So I feel like I've lived enough life to have all these variations, and to recognize that I'm now effortlessly. And what I mean by that is that nothing I do feels like I am breaking my back to get to some result. I do what feels good to me. I can't even tell you what I ate yesterday, to be totally honest. Like, I don't remember. I eat what feels right for me at the moment. I don't have a plan. I don't have a schedule. I love really good quality food. I love flavor. I love to move my body. I love to feel great. I mean, everything I do is designed for pleasure, is designed for feeling good in the moment. And the truth is, when I follow that feeling good in the moment, it leads me to all of these other amazing results, but I'm not doing it to get to these results. Frankly, I don't really care how I look anymore, right? I don't really care about all these ideas that I had about a certain way of being and controlling my life. I care about how I feel. And the magical thing in all of this is, the more I care about how I feel, the more I easily and effortlessly get everything I want as a side effect.
Yes. Oh my God, you said so many things there. And I think really it stems, like there's permission, number one, giving yourself permission to have that freedom to receive pleasure from food.
But I couldn't give myself permission until I found a way to feel safe. Because ultimately, when I go back to that time, and now, of course, I work with people who have all these challenges, and I'm able to break it down a little more and recognize that what I was seeking was to feel safe. So I can't just take away my crutch without replacing it with something that actually gives me the essence of what I want. Now I feel safe in all of these other ways in my life, so that food and exercise and everything just don't play a role in that. So again, I do feel like it's important to say that you're not bad or wrong for any of the things that you have lived. I bless every part of my journey because it taught me so much. And it was about replacing it with something that actually felt good in the moment and after, and didn't feel like I was fake feeling safe. And then never really, it's almost like eating, but never filling up. That's exactly what binge eating was, right? I was just consuming, but I could never fill the void until I actually filled it with what the void was really about.
Yes. That's that pleasure piece, that love piece, that piece that's, it's just an indicator. It's like that surface issue that means there's all these other things going on. Do you think that there's a big connection between how much we're operating in that masculine mode, and then this ease part is very much learning how to lean back into your feminine and receive and trust and nourish versus go, 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 push harder, force?
That's interesting, especially given that we've been having this amazing discussion about divine masculine, divine feminine in my membership. And where I'm at with it now, which I may change my opinion, is that I don't believe that the masculine mode is so go, go, go out of alignment. I believe that the true essence of the masculine mode is to be more direct, more concise, more precise, and more forward, more piercing, versus the feminine meets the same essence, but in a different way. It's like two different ways to paint the same painting, right? One is not better than the other. What I do know is that when either one of those is distorted, when they aren't met, the distorted feminine could be that you don't know how to receive, you are like rigid and tight and can't allow and controlling, right? But the distorted masculine could also be that you are disconnected from your emotions and really not even aware of what's happening, right? So I think it is about coming into alignment with, I feel like in alignment, divine masculine, divine feminine are really the same thing. They're just slightly different approaches, slightly different flavors of the same tune, right? So I feel like it's ultimately about coming into alignment with yourself. Now, we're using all of these words like self-love, self-worth, alignment. And the question that I always get, which is frankly the one I used to ask, it's like, okay, people, great. I hear you. I would like some self-love. Where can I get it? Like, I will take some self-worth, And it's like, well, how do I get there?
Yeah.
And there isn't like an answer that's like a cookie cutter blanket sort of, okay, go do this and this, because it's not about action. It's really about intention. And the way that you said, giving yourself permission and really listening to yourself, I feel like it's about prioritizing feeling good.
Yeah.
Like that's really what self-worth is to me. People say, well, how do you get to feel worthy? And I'm like, when you can give yourself permission to feel good, you believe you are worthy. That's it. That's my definition of it. So if you have a lot of programming and family beliefs and cultural beliefs around how you're not supposed to feel good and you're supposed to struggle and, you're lazy and you're bad and you're whatever, if you do actually do what feels right to you, then it does take some reworking of that programming, of that mindset. And then the behaviors follow. So instead of in our society, we tend to focus on behavior as a way to impact the emotion or the result. Yeah. In my experience, it's completely the opposite. When you impact the emotion, when you impact the mindset, the behavior naturally adjusts, and then the results naturally follow the new behavior. And it is such a more effortless way to make change because you don't have to struggle and make things happen each step of the way. You really just need to set that tune that will bring the matching components, the matching foods that will make you feel really good and alive, the matching people to move and work out with and do it in a fun way. You will find a flyer for a dance class. Somebody will call you up and say, let's go for a bike ride or whatever. But it's not like you're looking for it and like struggling to get it. It just naturally starts to coalesce. And, Abraham Hicks, which we both follow the law of attraction, or follow is such a funny word. I say we lead it. I live it, right? But the principles of the law of attraction have really helped me reshape how I look at this, and understanding that my goal is not to be each instrument in the orchestra and try to play all the parts, which is what a lot of people try to do, and control every behavior and situation, person in their life. but to be the conductor.
Mm-hmm.
I have to wave my hands and be in charge, and then the instruments will play themselves.
Mm-hmm. So Liz D'Alto, or Elizabeth D'Alto, she also is one of the interview guests. And she, in her interview I just did yesterday or 2 days ago, she said, hustle for alignment, not to make things happen. And I think that's the same thing. Like when you focus on getting yourself into that zone of genius, of allowing, of receiving, like Abraham Hicks says, it's like you're a receiver, then it's like all of the other pieces will kind of play themselves out.
Well, and I love what she's saying. She's making this play on words, because it is a hustle at first, because it isn't what you've been doing. So imagine a train going 100 miles an hour in one direction. Before you can turn around, go in the other direction, you've got to slow it down, which is where a lot of people have to start being aware of what's happening. And that's really the most painful part, because all of a sudden it hits them, like I would experience in those moments in yoga. Oh my God, I am killing myself.
Yeah.
What the hell am I doing? It's very painful to recognize that. But once you can slow down enough to recognize it, you can actually deliberately turn the train in the direction you want to head. And then you can add momentum. You can hit the gas and go as fast as you want in this desired direction. But really you can't just like flip a switch, right? And so it is a practice until it becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah. It's almost like building a muscle. Like you have to work it.
It's almost like building a muscle, right? But see, and I've seen your posts and everything. It's like at some point you just can't imagine that it's hard to do this exercise, or that it was hard to lift this much weight, because there's a great story that Jerry Hicks used to tell. And I've included this in some of my blog posts, where there was a farmer, and every day he would take this little calf and lift him over the fence. Little tiny calf, lift him over the fence to go to the pasture to go feed. And every day he did that. And within like a year, he's lifting a full grown bull, but with the ease with which he was lifting a calf. Yeah. And it's because every day he just lifted a little bit. So that's really what we're talking about, is making it manageable, making it easy, making it fun, so that it doesn't feel like work, so that you're actually enjoying the process. And before you know it, you are moving mountains, but with the same ease that you were doing whatever you were doing a year ago, right?
Yeah.
So I really feel like it is a radical shift in mindset away from getting to somewhere and instead enjoying the journey.
It's so true. And you've done this not only related to your body, but you've done it in all areas of your life, really. And so I'd love to hear like maybe your favorite story on how you've manifested some of these amazing, amazing things with ease.
Well, you know, it's funny because once you have this perspective, it's not like you can put blinders on and like all of a sudden struggle in one area, right? Because it's just struggle becomes so uncomfortable. Like anytime something doesn't feel good, I like squirm. Yeah. And I just can't take it. I'm just like, I gotta adjust it. Whatever I gotta do, like, I gotta make the change. So I think maybe a good example would be a recent one. So let's see, how far do I want to go back? I grew up in a super, like in literally one room with my parents in Russia. We come from very humble beginnings. I never really had a chance to like even dream about living in kind of home that I would see on TV or whatever. But, you know, I live my life. I see my friends. I look at, you know, movies and things. And I started dreaming about what I would want to feel in my dream home. And I thought this would be like years down the line, right? I would just sit on the beach and do my ease meditation, visualize my home. Well, this house came up kind of out of nowhere. We were looking for a home, and it was much higher in rent, by like $1,000 a month higher than what we were looking for. But my husband and I walked in and we looked at each other and we're like, we have to have it. Like I that feeling was so clear and so obvious. So then I went through this journey of, do I dare to give myself what feels right? Which a lot of people will go through that. Do I deserve it? Am I worthy? Can this really be happening? Like all of these questions. And in the end, having all of these practices be really a daily sort of part of my life, we sign the lease and we move in. Every month we had to really think about how we budget and everything, because it was such a big jump in what we were used to paying. And then I think it was maybe 6 months of us living there. No. I'm wrong. 2 weeks after we signed the lease and 2 weeks before we were supposed to move out into the house, I got a notice saying this home is going to pre-foreclosure. So before we even moved in, and I completely freak out for like 10 minutes. What the hell is going on? I don't even know what pre-foreclosure really means. Call up the owner. He's like, yeah, it's a long story, but he was negotiating with the bank and they weren't negotiating with him. And so he said, okay, let's adjust the lease to be a 2-year lease. Make sure that you get your deposit back. Even if another owner takes over, you're going to be protected. So, okay. After freaking out and thinking this is the worst thing, I was able to turn it into something that felt comfortable. And now we're living in this house. In about 6 months of living in it, we finally get a notice saying, okay, the bank is going to sell this house. Now, that puts me in a very unsafe kind of feeling, right? I have a family, I have 2 kids, I have a business, and this house was a big part of my business now because I ran workshops there and everything. By the way, that's how I was able to make up the difference in the rent. Is I realized I got this idea after we moved in, I can do these workshops here. And it was amazing how when you say yes to yourself, a way will appear to make it happen. It's really magical and mind-blowing, but it happens every time. So now I just see it as the norm. And a few months later, the house was going back and forth and it was eventually sold. And these people that bought the house was an investment company, tried to threaten us and sent eviction notices. And there were all of these, and I just got pregnant. This was early on in the pregnancy. So I am I think 2 or 3 months pregnant, getting a 3-day eviction notice on Christmas Eve.
Oh my gosh.
So here I am thinking, what am I going to do? What have I created? What an irresponsible adult. I have a family, my husband and I, blah, blah. And this is when those muscles really, I had to practice using those strong trust muscles, those strong refocusing and alignment muscles. And within 20 minutes of raging about it and telling my husband, this guy is such an asshole, I can't believe this. I'm going to take every single freaking fixture in this house and I'm going to I just went on a tear, which I believe in expressing my emotions fully. That really helps me release it. And then I realized, you know what? I manifested this situation to feel more empowered. I will not let this company have this power. I know this will be a way that will serve me. I know something good will come out of it. And I just practiced doing this. And within a couple of months of negotiating with them, we got 5.5 months rent free there and a $21,000 payout to move out within 90 days. So here was this situation that was hairy at moments. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There were challenges. There were emotional breakdowns to breakthroughs. But my God, was I able to walk the walk? And the result was so phenomenal that it was basically $40,000 total. That we basically got paid to live in that house for free for a year. And it was a huge mansion dream home. And then I went through the journey again of manifesting a new house on kind of short notice. And here I'm sitting here, which I wish I could give you a little tour, but it's not really set up yet. And this house is even better. It's a little bit smaller, but I'm half a block away from the bay, a block away from the beach, I love where I am and how easily and effortlessly this came about. Yeah. So this practice of listening to what you want and giving yourself permission to want it. That's number one. I really feel like awareness has to happen before you can do anything.
It does. Totally.
Right? So awareness and active listening, because it's not just I'm aware and I'm going to suppress it, which is, I think, what I tried to do for a long time. Right. And you don't have to know how. You don't have to see a clear way. It doesn't even have to be a super smooth way. You just have to practice little by little, aligning with what you know is the truth. And what I know is the truth is that it really can't ever go wrong. And I had to remind myself of that a lot. I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And the more that you practice this trust, this kind of elusive trust, it stops being a blind kind of trust, because you've lived enough experiences now to where, I had to do the same thing during my twin home birth. We had all these crazy, things with my son being breech and the doctor saying we need an emergency C-section. And I still decided to do the home birth with a midwife. And I really had to practice trust. But it was such a deep and strong knowing within me of what felt right to me that I just couldn't ignore it. And now looking back, I've just lived it so many times that it's just so easy to trust. I just have a proven track record that it always works out for my good eventually. So I might as well just skip the stress and go right to the recognition that it's all going to be good. And I might as well lean back and just know that it's all good. Let's have a party.
Yeah. And you can't always see that this is leading you towards your desires with like our limited perspective. And that's the thing that I think it hit me when you were talking, like, that's how you find your intuition. That's how you build that muscle, is by having these experiences that are very challenging while you're going through them, but staying true to that feeling that you know that this is right, even when you don't know how it's going to work out. And then it does in ways far bigger and better than you could ever, orchestrate yourself. And then you're like, okay, yes, I am always being guided. I am always safe, really, even in those moments where we don't feel like we are.
And it's a practice, which is exactly what we've been talking about. Like, This is why I created the 4-minute ease meditation and the 21-day ease course. And I asked people to practice something for 21 days, because the more you practice, the more obvious it becomes. Then you can't ignore your intuition by the end of the 21 days. It's so loud and obvious. But in the beginning, you have to actively listen and just show up, even when it's not so clear or so effortless to you yet, right? I just think it's investing in your well-being. It's investing in what you want to grow, instead of passively investing your time and energy in all the things that have your attention that don't feel good.
Yeah. So instead of trying to force things happen, like dieting and restriction, or trying to force yourself to make more money by pushing really hard and working tons of hours, you realign that focus and put it on those things that shift everything. It's like that foundation stuff that then trickle up into everything else.
Yeah. And I really feel like it's empty to talk about it. You just got to do it. Like, it's not enough for me to say it, for you to say it, for anyone else to say it. Until you practice it and live it, words don't teach. Life experience teaches. And what I do in the 21-day Ease course and all of my programs is I help people think about things that did flow, that they've already lived this. What area of your life do you kind of take for granted? For example, you might be really struggling in your work and money, but ease, like health, comes really easily to you. You effortlessly stay thin. Or you take it for granted that you're going to be promoted and you're going to, do great in your relationships. For example, you have a lot of girlfriends, or you have an amazing partner, but you struggle with your body or whatever. Take what's working in the area that is feeling more effortless and natural to you, and start examining what principles do you have there? What mindsets do you have in that area that are working for you? And then transpose them to the areas that aren't. I mean, really. And I feel like the reason this is powerful is then it's not somebody else's story. It's your own story. Like, you can see for yourself that, hey, I know how to do this. I'm just not applying it right here, but I know how to do this.
So for someone who wants to take that first step towards feeling like I have arrived, and giving them that permission to shine, what would you say would be that first step? Like, really just doing something like that, like really putting towards, the practice for a certain amount of time? Or
I feel like the first and most important step is looking for what makes you feel good. Like, literally. And I know that sounds so natural. Like, it's so innate in you to know when something feels good and when something doesn't. Like, your body will react, right? Like, it's like, how do you know? Well, your heart will either feel expansive and good, you'll feel like smiling, or you'll feel like crying and tight. And you know what I mean? Feeling good or feeling bad is so obvious to everyone. But to pay attention to it and start noting more of the things that make you feel good. And it could be as simple as, my God, it just feels so good when I go to the beach. It feels so good when I'm around this person. It feels so good when I do this activity. It feels so good when I do, the 4-minute ease meditation that I'll offer to all of your viewers or whatever. And my belief is, instead of removing the things that don't feel good, just fill up so much on the things that feel good. There's no room for anything by the time that I have so many relationships that feel amazing, I have no room or desire for relationships that don't. Yeah. It's just kind of like, ugh, and you just move towards the one that do. Yeah. So it's not about resisting and cutting off, like, okay, I got to stop this behavior and I got to remove this from my life. I feel like whatever you resist persists, right? So it's like, don't think of a pink elephant. Don't think of a pink elephant. All you're thinking about is a pink elephant. Instead, actually say, what do you want to think about? Okay, well, what makes me feel good? That's a really good question to ask yourself 20 times throughout the day, right? And then spending time focusing on those activities. And not everyone feels good doing meditation. For people, I did, my training in graduate school in transpersonal psychology. And I very clearly realized that somebody with a lot of trauma, especially physical or sexual trauma, meditation, the non-guided kind, is actually re-traumatizing them. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. So for them, doing some sort of creative expression, or what I call creative visioning in the Get Full of Yourself membership course, or some other ways of attuning and aligning, are going to be the paths of least resistance. They're going to feel easier. They're going to feel more fun. They're just not going to trigger, big emotions. So it's finding what works for you. And that may be different than what works for someone else. And enjoying the discovery process. It's like trying 1,000 flavors of ice cream. I mean, I wouldn't call that a job, or hard work. I'd be like, ooh, which one do I like more? Like, look at these ways of discovering what resonates with you and what nourishes you and rejuvenates you and gets you more full of yourself and aligned, as a way to taste all of these amazing flavors. And if you taste a pistachio flavor that I think personally is gross, it's like, okay, well, just don't eat it again. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Okay, you tasted it, didn't like it. Note to self, don't love pistachio, try something else, and not make it a big deal. And it comes to a place where now I feel like my life is one big discovery of what's the next thing that's going to feel good to me. And what an amazing way to live.
Yeah. It's all about self-discovery. It's less about like getting to that finish line or that point in the future that you think is going to make you happy, but it's more about like, ooh, what can I experience today that's going to give me the clarity to help know exactly what it is that I want?
Well, and the carrot keeps moving.
Yes.
You're never going to, wait a minute, I'm deceptive in my go from I have a vision to I've arrived, because as soon as you arrive, you have another vision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The target keeps moving. But if you are enjoying the journey to the target, then you could care less what the hell the target is. It's like,
so
okay, do I care that I live in this awesome home or that awesome home?
Yeah.
They're all awesome.
And it's human nature to want more. Otherwise, we would be bored, and like, what's the point of life if we didn't have these things that we were interested in, that we were challenging ourselves? So when you give yourself that permission to just be okay wanting, but being excited about where you are right now, it changes everything.
Yeah, I mean, I still have goals and intentions, right? Like, because I've slowed down so much during this pregnancy, which I didn't during my twin pregnancy, but I've hardly worked out. God knows why. It just feels more intuitive or whatever. My body's effortlessly maintaining itself, but I'm just not moving as much. I'm like having dreams of doing all of these awesome physical activities, like I can't wait to get going at it and do more yoga once again and all of these things. So it's like, I have things that I want, but it's not taking away from where I am.
I love that.
Just adding more to my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, that is an amazing place for us to end, because I think that really sums it all up, is that wanting more does not need to take away. It's like happy with what is, eager for more. Like that whole idea of just making this journey exciting and fun, no matter what your goal is or your interest, but nourishing your way there, using it as a way to expand. That's the name of the game in any of these different areas of life. So
yeah. And I feel like it's embracing that there are going to be times when you don't feel good, and that's a part of the expansion. So instead of constricting and tightening and blaming yourself or shaming or whatever, recognizing like, hey, this is a gateway to the next level. So then I used to say this when I would teach yoga, like stretch your definition of enjoyment to include all of the poses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like stretch it so that there isn't, I enjoy this and I don't enjoy this. Yeah. And then at that point, you just get to enjoy all of the variety of life.
And it feels so good after you're done too. With yoga.
And this is where, if you can master feeling good, even when things aren't going good, you truly mastered being unconditional.
That's what I was thinking when you were talking about the whole thing with your house. And I have so many experiences from my own life where things like that like happen, and it really challenges you to find your alignment even when things feel chaotic or uncertain.
Yeah.
And that's right there. Like,
gift. That's a huge
yes.
gift because you get to become more masterful.
Yes.
And I like to become more masterful. You know, it feels good to me. And it feels more unhindered then. Like that I don't need this person to like me, or my husband to do this, or my kids to be like this in order for me to be happy. It liberates all of these people and circumstances from having impact on my emotional feeling and attitude.
Mm-hmm.
So liberating to recognize that I don't have to feel good if this happens and feel bad if this happens, that I could choose to feel good. Again, it's a practice. It's an evolving practice. I'm not perfect at it, but man, have I come a long way. And it just gets better and better and better.
Yeah, because then it trickles over into all those areas. It's like you take your power back and then you show up as the best version of yourself in that relationship with them, because you don't have all these expectations that you're like projecting onto them.
Yeah, exactly.
So powerful. Well, if people want to find more about you, or if they want to learn more about these courses, and I know you have a free gift that you're going to be offering, where would be the best place for us to send them?
Yeah, so best place is my website, www.lanashlafer.com. And we'll put a link to my free 4-minute ease meditation, which I created when I could no longer spend like 20 minutes meditating because I had little kids around, and I could like close the bathroom door and be like, you know, so for the busy people. And then I developed a whole 21-day ease course, partially around this meditation, a bunch of other meditations, and some other practices to really begin to live this instead of just think about it, philosophize about it, right?
Yeah.
And a great side effect is that I've had quite a few people write back and share improvements in their health and their fitness from the ease course. So I don't advertise it as such, because I'd rather you just feel more self-loving and worthy and better than like lose weight or get in shape. But it's a natural side effect of what happens.
Absolutely. I can speak for that as well. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was an amazing conversation, and I think everyone's going to get so much out of it, and we'll see you on the interwebs.
Thank you.
Take care, and I'll see everyone else in the next interview.